Today is the day, supposedly, the 31st of January. It's the day we're meant to leave the EU. It's formal. The EU have approved it. The Lords have approved it. Parliament has approved it. The Queen has rubber stamped it. It's official. We're leaving the European Union today, formally, not completely, not wholeheartedly. We're still going to have some ties to the EU for a little while. But for all intents and purposes, today is Brexit Day, if you will. Nigel Farage is having a party. I did ask him on Twitter if Aaron Banks would be holding a buffet, but he didn't respond, naturally. But as a left-wing Eurosceptic, this has I've been put in a bit of an uncomfortable position here. I'm just going to move this book because it's in the way. I'm put in an uncomfortable position here because I voted to leave. It's still in the way, isn't it? It's there. I voted to leave. However, I do regret my vote to leave because I voted for Brexit. I voted to leave the European Union, but not like this. And I was very naive when I voted, and I voted Brexit under a Tory government. And of course, I now see my mistake because I handed control of the Brexit negotiations to a party that is inherently selfish, to a party that will inherently look out for their own interests and the interests of their mates first, and they will only look after the working people, the working class, if it benefits them. And I recognise that now, and I do regret my vote to leave the European Union. I think it was poorly timed. Even the referendum was called in the interests of the Tory party because David Cameron wanted to stop the infighting about the issue. And I just want to know what you guys think is going to happen now, because I've always been a bit dubious about what they call Project Fear. Obviously, there was always going to be some kind of fallout from leaving the European Union. We've been a member for 40 years. There was always due to be some kind of economic downturn, economic fallout from it. But under the right government, that could have been probably substantially reduced. Under the right policies, under the right ideals, that could have been taken down quite a lot. I've always been an anti-EU because I believe it to be a neoliberal, capitalist, ultra-capitalist enterprise. It is designed, it is built with the sole purpose of benefiting the rich. It was built as an international movement, but it was built with good intentions, I believe. But it has become this ultra-national, ultra-capitalist, neoliberal project. It's for the rich. It's to benefit the rich, the corporations. People will run the corporations. It enables them to freely move cheap labour around the continent and around the member states and exploit them. That's my perspective. Excuse me, laryngitis is killing me. That's my perspective. But we now have a Brexit with the Tory party at the helm. So any fallout from leaving the European Union is going to fall squarely on the heads of the working people, the poor people. Just like anything under a Tory government, any economic downturn falls on us first. It's bound to. They are never, ever, ever going to make the rich pay their fair share first in order to get us out of any economic disaster, any economic downturn. It's just not possible. Now, as I said, I've always been a bit dubious about what they call Project Fear, because institutionally, the large majority of this country is pro-Europe. The Labour Party is institutionally pro-Europe. The Tory Party, up to very, very, very recently, was institutionally pro-Europe. The Liberal Democrats are institutionally pro-Europe. Parliament, pro-Europe. It's all been very, very pro-Europe. Mainstream thought has been very pro-Europe. And that's not the Brexiteer in me speaking. That is just fact. Everywhere you look, everyone is for Europe. Now, I've always considered a lot of these predictions to be codswallop, a lot of them to be quite sound. So, for instance, the warning from the car industry itself, from many key players in the car industry, that leaving the European Union will cause a downturn in the car industry. I can trust that, I can respect that, I can believe that. But when you get warnings that are just, there was warnings that we were going to run out of water, we were going to run out of medicine, we were going to run out of food, there was going to be, rationing, planes were going to fall out of the sky, there was going to be, there was going to be fucking torrential rain. There was all kinds of weird and wonderful warnings that obviously none of them are going to transpire. We're not going to run out of water on day 2 of Brexit. It's just not possible. It just can't be done. So that's why I've always been dubious about, you know, the fear-mongering, if you will, at risk of sounding like a right-wing Eurosceptic, of Project Fear. I've always been a bit dubious about it. Obviously, some warnings are rational. They're based in reality. Obviously, some industry is going to be sort of negatively affected as a result of leaving the European Union, particularly under this regime and under this government. Particularly because, well, conservative by nature. Conservatism is less government involvement. So they will roll back the state and they will just let the market sort itself out, as they say. Whereas a Labour government, a socialist government, would be more inclined to get involved and set things up in such a way that they don't have such a bad effect when we leave the European Union. They rolled out a Brexit 50p. Why? Why? Seems as much of a waste of money as Boris Johnson's get ready for Brexit 31st of October posters that we saw everywhere, and that never happened. Why? And also, I also think it's quite funny. They went for a 50p, not a £50 note. 20, 10, 5? No, £2 note. Surely a £1 coin. But no, 50p. No idea why. It's pointless. It's juvenile. Speaking of juvenile, you had Nigel Farage and his Brexit Party MEPs waving their little flags when they were at the European Parliament the other day, because it was the last sitting day. The EU, for all their faults, stood there. They were very professional. They were warm. They were states-like, you know, as you would expect them to be, because they're representing their countries on a global stage. And what did our country go and do on a global stage? We waved some flags. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with waving the Union flag. Nothing in the slightest. But when you're representing your country on an international scale, the world is watching. You should be a bit more professional than to stand up and go, yeah, UK, look at our flags. Nigel Farage is a gibbon, if you ask me, as is Anne Widdecombe, as is everyone else in that party, the Brexit Party. Absolute morons. That is not how you conduct yourself. You're leaving the European Union now, a bloc of 27 trading states, and I've always considered the trade aspect to be a good aspect of the EU. You're leaving that now. Surely you want the rest of the world to pay attention to you and take you seriously and come forward with offers of trade deals and offers of talks and offers of whatever else. Do you really think that's going to happen now that they've seen you behave like that in the European Parliament? I don't think so. I think they're going to laugh at you. I think they've been laughing at us for the last 3 years, I think. But part of me is glad that this is shortly all going to be over, because now the Tories have to fight the socialist fight with the socialist parties on an even ground, even level, because the socialist parties have been very weak on Europe, because the ideals of Tony Benn and people like that have sort of been washed away in favour of pro-European socialism, and mainstream socialism is pro-Europe. And now that question's out of the way. We're leaving the EU. So now they have to fight us case by case, point by point, on issue by issue, not just conflate one issue and go and make that about everything and make that the entire argument. Now the Tories have to fight case by case. However, if not very many or none of the predictions about Brexit come true, if the car industry doesn't suffer, if the market, God forbid, if the market starts to boom after we leave the European Union, we are doomed. And this is where it's a bizarre two-sided coin, because obviously we don't want the market to be damaged. We don't want the economy to crumble. But if it doesn't, if all the predictions that Project Fear have been making turn out all to be entire codswallop, not just the marginal few, we will never get the Tories out. Boris Johnson and co will be stuck in that number 10 for decades. We'll never get rid of them, because we spent 3 years, particularly the pro-European, the mainstream socialism groups and parties have spent 3 years saying that Brexit will be a disaster. And if it turns out to be anything short of that, I fear We may be stuck with the Tories. As it is now, we're stuck on an island with the Tories on our own. Now, for all intents and purposes, the European Union, they've got upsides and they've got downsides. It's just, for me, the downsides outweighed the upsides when I went to the voting booth and voted to leave. One of the upsides is their legislation when it comes to workers' rights and workers', protections. A lot of the legislation that entitles you to rights of holiday, rights of sickness pay, right to strike, etc., they're all enshrined in EU law, which means that no government for the last 40 years has been able to touch them. Now we're out of the EU, if we leave in such a way, obviously I don't know the ins and outs of it, I'm not a diplomat, not an expert on these things. If we leave the EU in such a way where those rights are not protected, which I thoroughly suspect that we will, Boris Johnson, Sajid Javid, all of these people can just strip away our employment rights. No one can stop them. Look at the whomping majority Boris Johnson has now got in the Commons. He can do what he likes. It's a very slippery slope. I do seriously regret voting to leave the EU because this is what it's led to. We've given Boris Johnson, a psychopath, almost complete control of the House of Commons. He can do what he likes. He's got no EU red tape in his way now. He can strip away employment rights, rights for refugees, all these kind of things that the EU has protected for the last 40 years. And I thoroughly think that if we had say a Corbyn government in power now, all those things would have been immediately protected. This is what it's come down to. This is the way the cookie is crumbled. Let me know what you think. Is Brexit going to be a disaster? Is it going to be calamitous? Is the economy going to crumble? Are we all going to be eating rat meat and drinking Thames water for the foreseeable future? Or the other side of the coin, the other terrible outcome, it's all terrible however you look at it, the other terrible outcome, are we going to flourish? And are the Tories going to be proven right? And are we going to be stuck with the bastards for decades? Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.